Okay, everyone, we'll get started here in just a few seconds. This is the fun part. Open mic. Come on in. Have a seat and we'll get started soon. I know it's freezing in here. We're on the last stretch and then we can go outside and hit the heat. No, I can get started for the comments because I don't think we're going to respond to that. I'm going to introduce, we'll have the comment coming. You're going to respond? Okay. But jump up as you feel the need. I've got, it's part of the, yeah, I got it. So you'll notice in your program, this is our last activity for the day before we have our networking reception, but we wanted to make sure that we had some time to hear what people are thinking and what's going on, and either reflections from the different work groups or the earlier parts of the program, things that we need to put on our radar. So we did this last year, and it was really successful, and we're going to do the same thing. We just want to give everyone an opportunity to speak, but we want to enable as many people to share their voice as they can. So we're going to have brief comments, and we'll set a timer. So we'll have 1-minute comments from people. We're not really planning on responding. I'll just say we're taking notes. We're recording this. We will take this to heart and direct them to the appropriate work groups or steering committee, or keep track of these comments because they are important. And Chuck and I can respond. I think if needed, we'll see what kinds of comments come up. So we'll do that till 5, and then we'll head over to our reception. So as we wind down day 1, these are the kinds of things we want to know. If you have a comment, experience to share what you've learned. I will go ahead and set the timer. If people want to come forward, I think it's so cold, it's good to exercise and get to the microphone. But if anyone has a comment and they can't make it to a microphone or don't want to get out of the middle of the road, just wave your hand and I'll send somebody with a microphone to you. And we'll see how far this carries. In my experience, I might have to cut this off right at 5, but let's get started. So who's got something to share? Now, every session I've had to cut off and feel bad, so we're all right. Okay, yeah, okay, and I'm gonna set it, and the computer's gonna, I did it 1 second. Yeah, sorry, we had different prototypes here.
Hi, what type of qualitative research do you see that can support MCBK, the computational stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. Someone else brought that up. I won't respond. I'm going to just put qualitative research on our queue. I think there's an important role for that. Does anyone want to reflect on that? I'll give you 1 minute as well. That's a great point. Any other? I know someone else brought up qualitative research and the role. Oh, it was you, Josh. Okay, go ahead.
Well, just one reaction and an idea is just from our own work group, the Trust and Policy work group. So doing content analyses from various searches. There's opportunities to do interviews with various stakeholders to understand more about the ecosystem and the challenges and opportunities within the space to inform policy. That could be one area that where qualitative is directly applicable to the CBK community here, and I'm sure others could think of lots of examples.
Great, thank you. Okay.
You to reset the timer?
I'm going to reset it because I think some people.
You're going to only give me 10 seconds.
Okay,
no, just a quick comment to say I think we need to think of qualitative research in 2 senses. Josh, I think the sense in which, unless I misunderstood you, you brought it up earlier, was how do we capture as computable models the results of qualitative research and make that kind of knowledge computable. Was that correct?
Well, that was embedded in that there is that possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, if we wanted to get to it, that could be an option for the committee to consider.
Right. So that's kind of number 1, which I heard you say. Number 2, which I just heard discussed was the idea that as we develop the MCBK community, and there are ample opportunities, in fact, I would argue the necessity of using qualitative methods to generate the knowledge that will guide us in developing the policies and other accoutrements we will need to build an effective community.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to ring, there will be bells and noises, so I didn't want to stifle that. So this may not be necessary. I actually just thought it would be important to cut people off. So what other thought, who sees possibility with this? Oh, you have a comment? Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that the infrastructure group, we had a really great conversation around technical principles and the need for those in MCBK, especially around the infrastructure. And so we're going to be continuing that discussion tomorrow to kind of put together something like if anyone's familiar with Tim Berners-Lee's linked data principles, we want to put together some sort of white paper like that, and we'll get started with it.
Great, thank you. And we'll start the day tomorrow with some recaps of the work groups, but that's great that there was some good work there. Reset. Am I missing a reset button?
So
here?
I was a little surprised that we didn't really talk about regulatory aspects at all. The bio doesn't have it, but medical has lots of them in terms of FDA regulations, and particularly regulations around the general data protection in Europe, about cybersecurity, and about HIPAA. We really haven't addressed any of those, and they're all important.
I agree they're important. We'll reiterate that note. I think that's come up in some of the policy groups. I know it's relevant to research and clinical, and we've got folks from here in European community, so that might come up tomorrow in the work groups. We'll see, but that's very relevant. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just want to bring up something that came up in our discussion about policy. The digital divide. It was not discussed at all today. And where I live, it's still very important about making sure we have broadband, and there are issues going on in rural areas, but also in inner city areas. So I just hope it'll be on the agenda, and I think it has to do with inclusion, and sorry I couldn't go to more than one work group or clone myself.
Wonderful. That is on their agenda. I know that's a very important topic. Yeah, Tony?
So that was exactly the point I stood up to make, is that we need to find a way to cross-fertilize the working groups as well. I mean, I've been in trust and policy, and it's clear that standards must be working in parallel topics and so on. And we need to bring things together in some way. I don't think just short report backs to the plenary will be enough. And maybe find some way to cross-represent in working groups or some other solution anyway.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's something we struggle with, and I will say, I won't take your time on this. The planning committee has noted the potential overlap and synergy. So there are people that are designated to be in the work groups and then have conversations afterwards to sort of process that and identify opportunities and potential synergies there. But moving forward, I think for the community, you make a good point. We can do well to assimilate this. So there will be post-conference follow-up, and we'll try and create that integration and think about ideas to do that next year. So great. Thanks.
Yeah, I think, and we were working with infrastructure group also, and among the things we find out is that to do this right is a very large amount of work, and something that is going to be far beyond the reach of a sporadic meeting group. Obviously, there needs to be a fair number of dedicated people doing various aspects of this. There's also a fair amount of the work that has been done before in one sense or another, whether it's people thinking they have the right ontology, people thinking they have the right previous mapping systems, all the different programs, CDS Connect and Healthy Decisions and all the rest. So there's many pieces of work that we need to leverage and utilize. We can probably set up the framework for what we think particularly is important about this mobilizing knowledge part. But I think after that, we should spend a lot of our time looking to find answers that have already been started.
Yeah, great, thank you, great comment. Other thoughts? And wave your hand if you just can't get to a microphone and want us to bring you on. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Josh. There's no limit on
I don't have the mic, but maybe to build on Jonathan's and Tony's comments and others too, is having a recommendation might be to have a digital platform for the community to work on or work with. So maybe, HL7 uses Confluence, and then there's others. We tried Box with our work group, and it didn't really work very well. But if there is, some way in which we could check in on one another digitally between, this meeting or work group meetings would be really helpful. And I don't know what tools might be, affordable for the community to use and reliable and sustainable. But I think that would be really helpful, and kind of maybe building out some kind of repository that I think Jonathan was hinting at, and talking about, cross-fertilizing across the work groups to have some kind of digital presence and platform could be really helpful.
Yeah, great, thank you. We'll put that on we'll note that. Other thoughts, reactions, feelings about today?
So just one comment in terms of being able to reuse things that are already out there. There's a large community in Europe called the Elixir Europe community that's building platforms, infrastructure, tools, and enabling interoperability of digital assets. It might be worth looking into and they've been around for about 4 or 5 years. It's quite an energetic community driven, and they're looking for international collaborations too, so it may be a good overlap to kind of look into and find some synergies there.
Great, thank you. We do have a few minutes if anyone has anything on their mind. Otherwise, Chuck, I did end up sort of responding to some of these. Did you want to say a closing remark, or I can move to our announcements and we can open tomorrow with a summary of today? Not to put you on the spot, but since we are sort of, to my slide.
Aren't you going to clock me?
I think, no.
Clock me, please.
All right, I'll watch that.
No, just a couple of reactions, a couple of thoughts from my perspective. First of all, I think we had a terrific day today. I was impressed by all of the presentations. That Patty Brennan was terrific. Of course, it was no surprise to anybody who knows her or has seen her speak before. The panel had great parts in terms of the presenters, but it had an incredible synergy, I thought, and I hope you shared my perception of it. And I don't know how it happened, but there was there was a coherence and a flow to those 4 use cases that I thought was quite striking, and I think it spoke to and reinforced the unity across these domains of the MCBK concept. I am probably stating too often, but I'm going to state it again, my own view that if MCBK is going to do something that adds true value to health, it's going to be through its ability to speak to all 4 of those domains, as were reflected in the 4 use cases. Of course, each use case presented was one of a multiplicity of possible use cases in each domain. But I do think it's critical that MCBK speak to, in a profound way, all 4 of those domains, and I think the panel presentations made that abundantly clear. So tomorrow, we of course will hear from Don Rucker, the national coordinator for health IT, And we are also very fortunate to have Deepak Kalra here from the UK, representing the European Institute for Innovation through Health Data, and I think you'll hear from Deepak that there are enormously harmonious undertakings going on across the pond that relate profoundly to what MCBK is about. And I have become of the mind that this MCBK concept is a global concept, and the sooner we think of it as a global concept, even though this meeting is profoundly American in terms of who is here, the better off we will all be. So we're very fortunate to have Deepak here, and I look forward to his presentation tomorrow. So those are my comments.
That's
That was
great.
more than a minute.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you for not.
I felt it appropriate.
Thank you
that
for
we
not
respond
gonging
since
me.
we were- Yeah, I agree. This was a terrific meeting. I really enjoyed the discussions I've heard and all the presenters today, so I want to thank them and remind everyone we've got the reception from 5:30 to 7 tonight, and then we'll start at 9 tomorrow, and the co-chairs will give a little summary of what happened in the groups, and they'll sort of calibrate us and get us going again for another day of discussion on this topic. So with that, I'll close. I want to thank and clap and thank everybody for their participation and all our speakers today.